On a Saturday evening, 66 players gathered in a massive ballroom to simulate the Paris peace talks. They stepped into the roles of intelligence directors, revolutionary cadres, and heads of state. The simulation operated on zero-sum conflicts. If one faction gained ground, power drained directly from their opponent. Every victory required a loss. They smuggled flags, opened secret back channels, and held classified intercepts for blackmail, creating a tangled web of constant, gridlocked pressure. Inside those factions, the players believed they were turning the essential gears of history. But the architecture of the game ensured that their efforts would inevitably cancel each other out. Take the diplomatic back channel. The player representing Henry Kissinger desperately wanted a secret meeting with North Vietnam. He got his meeting, but only because the American intelligence apparatus intervened to leash him. He won the negotiation and walked out owned by his own government. Across the room, a security apparatus mobilized to stop revolutionaries from flying a flag at Notre Dame. If the flag flies, it makes a headline that people forget in a week. If security intercepts it, the headline is prevented and forgotten even faster. The highest tension came from a standoff between the NSA director and a revolutionary leader. Both players held sealed envelopes containing documents that could destroy the other's cause. Neither player fired. The standoff held because two powers facing mutual destruction calculated the risks and chose self-preservation. They maintained the status quo through hesitation. Every temporal faction poured enormous effort into genuine drama, and every victory was temporary. Earthly political power functions as a massive, self-canceling machine, producing outcomes that history completely overwrites in a matter of years. While the intelligence directors and diplomats calculated their wins and losses, a fifth group operated unnoticed. A few Christian students, a translator, an old pastor. The power players looked right past them. Their objectives had nothing to do with state secrets. They were tasked with translating a hymn into Vietnamese, protecting their interpersonal relationships, and maintaining their pastoral integrity through the night. In game theory, this is an orthogonal win condition. They weren't playing on the same axis. Because their goals didn't intersect with the political gridlock, this fifth faction could win regardless of whether the flag flew, treaties were signed, or spies were exposed. They were invincible because they refused to play chess on a board designed for casualties. They planted seeds in the cracks between the tiles. The earthly kingdoms in the room could not defeat them because they lacked the mechanical category to recognize what they were doing. The simulation had two different models of invisibility. The first belonged to Marshall Carter, the NSA director who flew across the Atlantic to manage the crisis. He represented the Permanent Intelligence Institution. Carter's power relied entirely on aliases, unread envelopes, and shadows. This is operational invisibility. It is effective, but it is fragile. It requires constant, paranoid defense to survive. Then there was Lavinge Thack, the young pastor standing in the corner of the ballroom, refining his translation of a hymn. He was not hiding. He possessed ontological invisibility. Like expanding yeast in bread, he went unnoticed simply because he was not the type of person powerful men are trained to look for. A congressional leak could expose and destroy Carter's operational network in an instant. Thack's position could never be breached. A man carrying a gift across a room has no cover to blow. If that fifth faction's destination is mathematically secured by the game's architecture, we have to ask, what do the individual choices of the players actually matter? The person running the simulation, the grand game master, understands providence. The overarching objectives of the evening will be met, but they do not require the cooperation of their intended instruments to happen. A meticulously planned Swiss student network was supposed to smuggle the revolutionary flag. They failed. Instead, a 15-year-old bystander ended up carrying it. The Swiss trio will remember an evening of failure. The teenager will remember carrying the weight of a movement. Both outcomes were the same for the world, but they were entirely different for the participants. Sometimes a player hesitates at the edge of a crucial decision. The game master steps in with a quiet word to redirect them. They make space for the scene to happen through the player's agency, but the player still has to choose to take the step. But God's sovereignty does not erase the cost of those human choices. Mistakes accumulated during the simulation. A character named Hubert got shot. Players bore real consequences for the actions they took. The ending of the game is guaranteed, but the quality of what you carry out of the room, the depth of the story you were trusted to hold, is determined by the measure of attention you brought in. We have 57 years of actual history to prove this thesis. We know exactly what survived 1969 and what faded. Richard Nixon won the presidency, then resigned. The Revolutionary Front governed briefly, then dissolved. The Paris Agreements failed. The Republic of Vietnam fell. The political maneuvers of those years left millions of people displaced, fleeing on ships and into camps as the world they knew was replaced by a different flag. But the invisible kingdom remained. The Evangelical Church of Vietnam endured through French colonialism, the Second World War, the fall of Saigon, and decades of communist governance. It thrives today with over 1 million members. Every intelligence operation conducted in that era has been declassified. Every political settlement negotiated by the powerful was superseded. The headlines have all been forgotten, but the hymn completed by the invisible pastor in the corner of the room is still being sung.